Hey,
We're live. I know it is 8:06. It is 6 minutes till, I'm sorry, before 8 o'clock. And we're always live. I'm sorry, we're always late.
we're
Are
on
we the
my
only
time.
show that's late?
We on my time, man. I'm always late, man. I think I'm gonna be late to my funeral. How about that?
Actually, I'm not going to necessarily blame it on you. We had some technical difficulties before the show, but we want to get it together for you guys. So, without further ado, what you want to kind of, well, what we do, what are we doing today? Do you
What are
know?
we doing today, man? I'm real excited about the guest that we have on today.
Uh huh.
None other than Mike Baker from MB Diamonds, giving out them
Uh huh.
diamonds.
Yes, sir.
It's real interesting, right?
Very much.
There's a lot of people on both sides of the fence, and
Yep.
I'm really intrigued by the service and what it has to offer. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, we get firsthand dibs on asking Mr. Mike,
Yep.
pick his brain a little bit on it. So,
Uh,
um, without further ado, man, let's get right into it, man. I want roll the
now you
skit, roll
sure?
it, roll it,
Man, hold on,
roll
hold
it.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to say something because you sound good when you say the intro, but I do want to say this though, man. Like, all right, so I met Mike at Chantilly, Virginia, and I tried out the MBA Diamond Services because I wanted a second hand eye because I'm not an expert at grading cards. So initially, when I went, I was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, just follow me on here. You could try the services out, and the second one is such and such amount of money." Okay, cool. Tried the services out. I got some extra knowledge that I did not know beforehand, so I guess you're right. I guess you said it better than me. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and start the show.
Yeah, start it. Hey, I love our intro, baby. Let's go.
All right, so let's start the show, baby. Let's go. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome everybody to Prism Gods. Did you hear everything okay? Because I didn't hear it on my end. Did you hear it?
All right. I don't know, man. Hey, you need to get some new earphones. I need to get a mic. You need to get some new earphones.
Hey man, you know what? Hey, the good thing about this show is we're casual. We have no grown, we learn on the fly, but we still getting better every show. Every show we bring on dope guests. We try to crack knowledge for everybody that's out there. And today we got the infamous Mike Baker. So without further ado, should we bring on Mike Baker?
I was gonna say one thing before you said that, where you did
Go
that.
ahead.
I'm really excited for it as well, and I want to get to
Yeah.
the show. But
Yeah.
first and foremost, I want to say thank you for all of the people who tune in and watch us every week.
Yes.
It was a real surreal moment and a real gratifying moment as well because we do put a lot of time and energy and we sacrifice a lot to put this show on for you guys, and it's
Yes.
really cool to be reciprocated, man. Met
Yes.
some really cool people in Dallas over the weekend who really had a lot of positive and great things to say. So I'd really want to reach out to all those people and just say thank you for supporting us, and thank you, for giving us your feedback, man. It's much appreciated.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We do get a lot of great feedback, man, and I love the people that support us. And like I said, we started out just average car dudes, man. Like we
We're
literally
still
started out
average
average.
car dudes.
I guess we are technically. I guess we still average car dudes compared to the people that's out there. So we want to bring this guest on to educate you guys, and so I guess we just go into it. You ready?
Yeah, let's go, baby.
All right. So without further ado, Mike Baker. Let's go. What's up, Mike?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey,
Good.
how's it going,
So,
Mike? I love that hoodie, by
man,
Here we
fashionably, that
go.
hard. There you go. If you don't have
I,
your
I,
Prism Guys hoodie, you missing out. Mike
I
got it.
was I was wondering what Raphael had to do to bribe you to get on here. Now I see it's that hoodie right there, that pretty hoodie.
Hey, he'll tell you I paid for this thing.
He actually did support the brand. He supported the brand, but you know what though? In respect, I support his brand as well. I again, like I bought, I did more than one car submission. I actually wanted to do some more with you this past weekend in Dallas, but you was flooded. You were pretty busy, and I didn't even get a chance to leave my stand, so it was just tough for me. But I definitely plan on using it the next show. If you're at Dallas again, I'll be there. I'll do some stuff with you. All right, so Mike, I don't even know where to start with you, man. Like, tell us about your beginnings. How did you like who? Tell everybody who you are and how you got in the industry.
So basically, in 1989, I was hired to be a coin encapsulator, and there was a day and night shift for PSA's sister company, Professional Coin Grading Service. And 2 years later, I was actually this coming 30 years. This June will be 30 years that PSA has been in business, and I was hired as the first full-time employee. And from shipping to grading to everything, there was, it was a fledgling company at the time. And getting back to what you were saying about the good and bad of this service, or the different types of mentalities behind it and what it
Hmm.
means and what it can bring. For a number of years, there was a say no to grading by a lot of big dealers, and it was in pretty much every major publication at the time, which constituted Sports Collectors Digest. You'd open a page up and it'd say say no to grading with a slash through it. So I had to
Hmm.
fight through that for years, and convince the dealers and collectors out there to submit cards and send their prized possessions off through the mail to, at the time, a 22-year-old kid. And
Wow.
it was pretty. It is and as you gain the collector's trust and you go to the shows and they get to feel it and see it, and you talk to them, face to face, they get a comfort level, and that comfort level start to grow. And over time, the say no to grading fell off the advertisements, and everyone kind of got on board.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
with the technological innovations with eBay, and the home run chase in '98 really kicked it off with eBay at the same time. It was huge. And then
Wow.
excuse me, and then little things every year seem to come up with new innovations. You look at what you guys are doing right now with this podcast. It's crazy. I mean, you go to the show and everyone's walking around with a YouTube or some type of videographer, and they're spreading it out. So
Hmm.
it's pretty fun to see. So that's
Definitely, man. I never,
it.
I never, I never knew that, man. Obviously, uh, that you're probably predating me just a tad there. But I will say that that's very interesting, man. I always like to see where we are as opposed to where we've come from. You
Yep.
know, and I think that hearing that say no to grading, there was a stigma with that, right? And
Yeah.
look how far it's come. You said that you were one of the first full time employees with PSA.
Yeah.
Now they have a million car backlog there that
Yeah.
we call it the PSA graveyard, man. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. We all have to start somewhere, right? For
Yeah.
every Apple, for every Tesla, for every whatever you name it, it has to start somewhere, right? And I was talking to another entrepreneur from New York a little earlier this week, and he said a lot of people have great ideas, and the way that they make themselves successful is being able to get through the hard times. Because anybody can start a business and get through the easy times. It's the hard times that challenge
Hmm.
people's motivations. It challenges their inner beings and their inner souls, and then they grow from there. And how you come out
Hmm.
on the other side shows what kind of character you have. So I give kudos for people who stick to stuff and then come out the other side, and hopefully it's on the more positive side.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yes, I didn't know. I mean, backtracking a little bit from what your conversation was. Who was the 22-year-old? Who was the 22-year-old at the time? Was you?
That's me.
Wow.
22
So
years. This June would be 22 years. 20 when I was
wow.
22. Yeah. And then
So all right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
it's I was just gonna say that as years went by, and cards, at the time I was living with my mom in my early 20s, and I remember telling her, I said, "Mom, if we could just get more than a couple thousand cards a month, we're gonna this thing has a chance." And to see it now, it's
Oh,
unbelievable.
it grew legs, it grew wheels, it
Wow.
grew airplane
Yeah.
Yes.
propellers.
I mean, I think at this point, I'd be surprised if Panini goes straight into grading cards from manufacturer at some point in time. It's like you might as well. I don't know. Is it something in the future? Maybe I don't know. I mean, we already see it in some products like encased, where stuff is
Yep.
already pre graded. And it's just I don't know if it saves time, money and energy. Is like, hey, it may make sense. I pull a 101 PSA 10. Okay, cool. Um, maybe
But
something in the future,
but
but
how valuable would it be? I mean, do you just throw away the cars that come back a 3 and a 4? You have to create some kind of differentiator, right?
yeah,
Not every car can be a 10, or
I
else they
agree.
wouldn't bring such a premium, right?
I agree.
And sometimes I kind of feel like they don't give you a 10 because, again, if they gave everyone a 10, then it wouldn't bring a premium, right? So how do you bring that premium?
Okay. All right. So you're absolutely right. I don't know how you bring that premium, but yeah, I'm just kind of spitballing a little bit when I talk about having products already graded because companies like I mean products like encased, and the fact that right now we're at an all-time high on grading cars. And then with the additional services that Mike is offering, I mean, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I just think that we're at an all-time high on grading, and then I think people kind of because the time frame is not as fast as I think a lot of people really want it to be. I don't know where we go from here. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that we have to catch up. I
yeah.
don't know how we address to get to catch up, and then being able to expand from there because there's always an area of opportunity in so many different things, and that's what Mike comes into play because, and I'll let Mike kind of explain a little bit
Yeah.
more why his company is a necessity for the hobby.
So I do have a question, right? I'm gonna raise my hand. I'm gonna feel like I'm in the classroom right now, but I'm gonna ask
Go
a question, Mike. So how like you said that you birthed pretty much you were there with PSA.
Mhm.
How did grading cards like how did the scale the grading scales come to fruition? Like how did that mentality come in? Like, well, if it has this, it gets this, and if it has that, it gets that. How did that come to play? Like I'd like to know where that grading scale came from.
It came from the existing publications at the time, and it basically it hybrided from what was and what it became. If you look at some of the old SCD catalogs, they used to be like phone books back in the day, and you'd get a yearly one, and it'd say, here's in each year a new set would be added, or but the core standard of what they were interpreting as a mint card or a near mint card, and there was no 8.5s and all this stuff. It was either mint or X mint, near mint. So there was basically a 3 or 4 categories that were typically used at the shows or through the mail at that time because there was no internet. So you're
Mm,
talking like caveman times in terms of looking at the classified sections and looking at a 1952 tops mantle that's being described as an X mint, and there was no real way to identify what that X mint was according to that particular dealer or collector because there was no uniform standard. And
mm,
so when PSA came on the scene in '91, we all put a bunch of good people out there with a lot of experience, um, knew how to like hybrid it and add the kind of the spice that needed to be added to kind of get people to buy into what it should be and what a uniform standard can be. And you had the Beckett and SCD, excuse me, and other people and other publications that were out there at the time, and it was just one big here. This is what we're going to go with. And
mm-hmm.
and I think that's what spawned some of the say no to grading part too, because that was a big change, a big shift in what dealers and collectors were able to advertise their cards as, and they were
Mm.
going with a 22-year-old kid at the time, and what my opinion
To
was.
lead,
So
Hey man,
that's so dope.
you're still a 22-year-old young
feel
man,
like
man.
it.
Don't
I
worry
geek
about
out
it.
on cards just like you guys do, man.
That's dope. So all right. So here's my question: Is are you a
Yeah.
collector? Are you a collector as well? Like, how did you get into the like? How did you get like? You just came
Basically,
in,
I had, like I think every kid had collected at some point or to some degree.
right?
And when I was hired to do the coin encapsulation, I was literally just putting rare coins in plastic holders, and then they were talking about starting PSA at the time back in '90, and I had gone to a couple local shows and whatnot, and saw the baseball card market has really matured, and as a teenager, you either stay with it or you kind of get out of it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I had gotten out of it that time, and then I went to a couple shows, and I was like, oh my lord, this is like is kicking. And that time it was like 86 Donruss, Canseco and McGuire, like the big thing. And you could open up packs and and pull a Conseco and walk it to another table and sell it for
Mm-hmm.
$50 or whatever it was going for at the time. And then, as soon as PSA, the formation of the company got there, I immediately saw I wanted that. I really got I got bit by the bug, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and,
I know. I know it takes a
Man,
lot of patience. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
no,
Kobe.
man,
I'm excited. So let's
I'm
go.
just excited, man. I feel like I'm in school, and this is like a
Yeah.
learning experience
Yeah.
for me.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
just got into like prepping cards and reviewing cards for people as well to send off, and for me to be able to stand here or sit here and hear this, I mean, I'm geeking. I mean, it's like it's
Yeah.
hard for me to hold my excitement in, but I do really appreciate this knowledge, and I have so many questions. We got an hour. I don't know how much longer we're gonna go after it, but I definitely have some questions that are coming to my head as we're talking that I'd like
Mm-hmm.
to ask, and I'm pretty sure we have some fans out there that want to ask some questions too, because they're pretty interested in the services that you have to offer, and go from
Yep.
there, man. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Raphael. I'm just excited,
No,
man. I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay because I told Mike, I was like, we're probably gonna be talking all over the place, but that's what's so cool about our show is we're really casual. We don't want to, we don't have any particular order on how we do things. We just try to have fun and try to build knowledge. So for the people that are out there, you can go ahead and put your questions in the chat. And I'll address those later on. But right now, I have some questions from Instagram. And basically,
Oh,
what other? I want to ask you a question. Go ahead.
we have to see what he does and what he has to offer first before we go into the Instagram. He has to tell us about his company and what he has to offer, and then we'll go from there. How about that?
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough. Mike, go ahead and talk to us about what you currently offer now.
all right. So basically, in coins, there's a company called CAC, and they place a hologram on high IAPIL coins, or the condition of, and it's been wildly successful for I think 12 or 13 years. So the concept has been around for a long time, and actually little over a year ago, PCGS, PSA's sister company, they integrated CAC into the registry. So that was a big shift. So for PCGS to allow that to happen, and obviously that's what I would be looking for at some point to happen. May or may not happen, but there is a precedent for it. But
Right.
that said, it'd been kind of a loose idea about doing it for a long time, and finally, let's do it. So my partner Damien Warner and I decided to go forward with it, and we started in August, this last August. Who knew COVID was going to shut down everything? And
Right.
our show is really, our show, the service is really show based because it is new and people need to see what's going on, handshakes, kiss babies, the whole bit. And,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, it's actually been pretty well received with only being,
Mm-hmm.
Chantilly and 2 Dallases. And with the values of the cards right now, you ship off 5-10 cards and it's over 100 grand. And the
Mm-hmm.
shipping alone or insurance is going to kill a lot of collectors and whatnot. So they're holding their prize collectibles or whatever, and they're waiting for us to get to a show. So, but all that said, we basically opened the doors in August. We attach a silver or gold or black diamond hologram to high IAPIL cards, and basically to SGC or PSA and Beckett BGS. And it's really just looking. I think if we were together right now, and I've been with you, Raphael, at Chantilly and whatnot, if you were to put 3 cards down, and one's like 50-50 dead, one's 55-45, and one's 60-40 on the front, and then you flip
Mm-hmm.
them and you see 50-50, 55-45, and maybe like 75-25 on the back.
Right.
Okay, we could all agree that one is going to be diamond worthy, so to speak, or some
Correct.
type of verification. And that's really what we're doing. We're just highlighting the best of the best. I know on Instagram, people are saying that I'm regrading the graders and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really not. Actually, we're not looking. We believe the services that we're doing, which are all pre-certified authenticators by eBay, are doing a great job. And we're just looking at wow, that card is special. And, and highlighting that, we scan every card that we place a hologram on front and back. So you can go to our website, enter the serial number, and, poof, there's the front and back image of it. And, eventually there'll be a population report for it too. So you'll be able to
Wow.
see Prism John Morant's are silver, gold, and black, and then like Kobe Collector was saying, you can't just take a 101 from Panini and having it graded. There has to be condition. I mean, especially those types of cards, because they're taking the card and they're placing a piece of fabric, and then potentially like an RPA, they're sending it to an athlete to then sign it. This thing's getting handled. So
Yeah.
if, like really an 8 or a 9 is really like a 10, because the 10s are super rare, because it's handling. Then they package it up in a pack and it goes into a box and into a case, and then it travels
Right.
around, and boy, it's like
Yeah.
walk on the chocolate factory with that gold certificate.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I hate thick cards, man. And when it comes to grading, I hate them because I don't like anything that's not a 10, right? And it's so darn hard to grade a card, a thick card.
Yeah,
So obviously the thick cards are going to bring a premium. That's why you see some of the National Treasures card when they get a 9.5, man, you're going to pay a pretty penny for them, man, because
yep,
they're hard to come by.
absolutely.
Correct.
And we've talked about, right, Rafael? I'm sorry, man. You know
No,
what?
you go ahead.
I'll
No,
probably
you're fine.
I'm
Go
putting my
ahead. Go
mute
ahead.
wrong.
No, you're
We
fine. You're fine.
talked about what if PSA came out with a black label, like their version of the black label, and
Mhm.
maybe it's the Mike Baker Black Diamond PSA 10 that
Yeah.
becomes the black label. Just throwing it out there, man. I think I'm pretty
Mhm.
excited about
What do
that.
you think of that? The NBA Black Diamond PSA 10. What do you think of that idea?
I need to be sick.
I do too, man. I mean, because eventually, you hear the echelons, right? We all know
Yeah.
where they fall, right? We know that PSA is under a BGS 10, BGS 10 is under a Black Label 10, and so in order for PSA to compete with that, then they have to come above and say, man, where's the Black Label PSA 10 at? Because
Mhm.
Hmm.
honestly, you see people when they want to increase their value on their PSA 10s, what do? They'll send it over to Beckett to hopefully BGS 10 or Black Label it. Now they just got 3x or 4x on their value of their card.
Right. All
Yep.
right, so for the people who are just now joining us on the feed and also on Instagram as well, we have Mike Baker, who is actually one of the very first graders for PSA. And for the people that are, because a lot of people that join us, they don't really know what's going on. So when you talk about 50, 50, and 45, 55, so we want to kind of break those things down to what people are to, where they can understand. Typically when you have a card, they have a grade. It's probably a bad example, but you want to check the centering on each sides and also on the back, and that's what's in reference to what he's talking about. So the people that are out there who do not understand what's going on, that's why this conversation is really much needed. And Mike Baker's services is actually one of those things that I feel like is what's much needed. I'll tell you an example. I posted a card you actually took a look at for me. It was the Giannis Prism Silver number to 25, and you gave me a gold sticker. Right? We lost Mike, but we'll get him back. All right. So Mike gave me he actually gave me a gold sticker. I posted it on my Facebook page, and I got a lot of people going back and forth telling me, why would you get it graded again? And
Okay.
so for me, I'm thinking to myself like, this is like I was just trying to move the card. I didn't think everybody would have make such a big deal about it, but people were giving me flack, talking crazy. Why would you do that? That's so stupid. And I answered him. I told him, I said, hey, I just wanted a second opinion. I don't
Yeah.
grade cards. And for the
So
people that are out there, we all don't grade cards. I mean, most of us don't do what Kobe Collector does, submit cards and he's looking at them on a daily basis, weekly basis. I just buy them, I grade them, I send them off, they come back, and that's it. So,
So,
what
but
are
I
you
was
about to
gonna
say?
say, we're gonna have to drop it on here, but the PSA 10 Michael Jordan just went for $750,000, right?
We got Mike
And
back. What's up, Mike?
Sorry,
so
guys.
when over the weekend in Dallas, all I kept hearing about, right, was is a top 20% of the population, right, of the PSA 10 population is the top 20%. Nines, right? The nines. Is it a top 20% of that population? And so I kept hearing that, and it kept resonating for me because no PSA 9, no PSA 10, no BGS 9.5, no SGC or whatever, or what may have you, right? So none of them are the same, right? So none of them, no two nines, no two tens are the same. So then you
Right.
start hearing these conversations come about that, upper echelon PSA 9s bring more than a standard PSA 9, right?
Hmm.
So how do you determine, right, what the upper echelon of that 20%, right? Well, how do you
Hmm.
determine that, right? Some people go, oh, this one has like the Jordan, right? For example, the back of a Jordan, they're really prone to having splash on the back of them, and so they
Hmm.
say this one has less splash, that one has more splash, or they have a fisheye on the front, right? So there's so many things that come with these cards. How do you differentiate between that? And I think that for me, a service like you offer, Mike, is beneficial in determining, okay, they go by their guidelines, what they determine as a 10. They have parameters that they have to operate within. They have a 60/40 for PSA. I'm not too apt to what BGS has, but there's certain parameters that these graders have to kind of abide by in order to give that card a grade. So
Hmm.
therefore, not all the grades are going to be the same.
Mhm.
So how do you know if you have one of the better conditioned PSA cards when it doesn't have any subgrades, right? And I've seen Beckett with their subgrades, and not every card. Well, quite frankly, it's just inconsistent at best. But we do. They're pretty close, right? I would say pretty consistent, inconsistent, but pretty consistent with what they do.
Well, I think with Beckett having all the subgrades, I think it's a great educational tool. But from a grading perspective, it's tough. I mean, you're coming in, you're looking at thousands of cards a month as a grader, and you've got four criteria to grade towards or grade to. That would be interesting. I like what PSA started with and where they are now, and where SGC is personally, because it doesn't define it down to the micro level, and
Hmm.
within all the systems, they're all going to be there's subjectivity. Each standard has their own, like you said, their own grading standard, and within that, it's going to be interpreted differently from one grader to the next. And
Mhm.
hopefully, the consistent part is that when the final, card with the grade in the plastic is being verified, it goes out as consistent as possible. And
Hmm.
What
PS,
would you say? What would you say about? Because I hear it all the time, right? Because I've had orders where I skunked, right? Didn't get any tens, and
yeah.
I've had orders where I almost got all tens. I mean, would you say that there's anything to like a grader having a bad day? Like that's what they say when you come back and you get 20%.
Right.
Oh man, the grader must
You
have
had a
had a
bad
bad
day.
day that day. They
Right.
took it out on my cards.
Urban legend.
Hey, Mike said he can neither confirm nor
No,
deny.
It's a
no,
it's a
it's
bad day
it's
grader.
true. Listen, if you go in and you get into a fight with your lady, and or whatever, you're having a bad day, you have a headache, whatever, you're not going to be, as you know,
Sharp.
you're going to be more technical than you would be if you weren't. I mean, it's human nature, really. You're talking about human
Hmm.
nature. And just
Right.
to say that, one box comes back all nines, one box comes up all tens. I don't know that part of it, but you know, um, so some of the graders grade technically, and they're looking at technically. You said fisheye on an 86 Fleer on the front. It's
Right.
not uncommon. It's somewhat common in certain areas of the card or whatever, and it can kill that particular card from being a 10, depending on where it's at and how big it is. And so those little nuances come in, and experience really is what hopefully dictates the consistency. To
Hmm.
always remember, hey, if the fisheye is this big or it's that big, you can kind of give a little bump for it. You fight for the card. I fight for the cards.
Hmm.
I don't say why it shouldn't be a 10. I want to fight for why it could be a 10.
Hmm.
And because the last thing I want to hear about is when I was actually grading, is cards that would go out and say they'd be in a 9 or whatever, and then they would get into a 10 on a review, or someone cracked it out, resubbed it, whatever. And
Right.
if the card's the card, and it has all the attributes within that standard, it should get as high as it possibly can, in my opinion. So
I like that a lot. I like that.
What would
He's
you
for the
say?
cards.
Well, what would you say? So PSA doesn't really do the half points too much, but you see it a lot between the 8 and the 9. So you see an 8.5. So
mhm.
what goes into that kind of mode and that psyche when it gets to 8.5, right? Is it that one person says it's an 8 and one person says it's a 9, and they meet in the middle and they get to 8.5?
Well, generally it's got to be, well, now granted, you're asking about when I was there grading, and I wasn't there when they had the half grades.
Okay.
They changed that
Okay.
thereafter. But what I can say, relative to just, how it was before that, it was two guys had to match, whether it
Yeah.
be, and you're hoping obviously that the two guys match when it's raw, so that when it goes to verification in plastic, you're not cracking the card out and causing potential damage or costing more money to the company, and you're trying to
Hmm.
do the best at job that you can. That's ultimately the goal. Everybody wants to get their cards back in a modest amount of time. And granted, you're talking about, I've heard talks about AI and all these, innovative ideas that may come into play someday. Or,
Mhm.
I've also heard people like, hey, why don't they set up a sub hub, or not a sub hub, but like another office, like across the country and whatnot.
Hmm.
And
Heard that
unfortunately,
too.
yeah, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's really the graders that dictate what it's supposed to be and the experience that they take to it. If you start getting guys in there that don't have the experience, they're not going to be able to articulate why that fisheye that's now the size of a dime on an 86 Fleur Jordan potentially should be a 10. You can't have, they can't be button pushers. You have to have guys that get it, know it, and understand it. And
Yeah.
that's what's keeping the line. So I'd much rather have services have a backlog, even though it's kind of crazy right now, or it is crazy right now, than having just cards flood the market that are completely all over the board.
Man,
Hmm.
I feel like a little puppy, man, sitting over the food bowl, man, just eating up all the food, man. So I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna let Raphael talk a little bit. I'm taking his
Hey,
little shot. He's usually the talker. I'm just a
hey,
sit back and answer question guy.
you know what? You know what? It's the first time you actually took the lead, so I'm okay with that. This is an educational moment for me as well. So, like I said, like I told Mike, I'm like, I don't know how this show is gonna go. We're just gonna talk, see how things go. I got tons of questions. I don't even. Some of the stuff I'm actually going over my questions, trying to make sure you didn't already answer it. So I'm just like just making sure. Um. So I guess. All right. So I guess a good question is for the people out there that potentially, what does it take to be a grader? Like, what is something that you look like? What do you have patience? Is like, what is some, I mean, what does it take to be a good grader? Because I've heard people getting offered positions to be a graders and they're like, I don't want to be a grader. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do collection. Like, talk about some of the prerequisites that go into, because I was told that, I don't know if it's a legend or not, you can't be a collector if you're grading. I don't know how true that is.
Relative to being able to double dip or something, or what are you saying?
Well, no, just saying in
Conflict of
general. So
interest.
basically, just yeah, is it a conflict of interest for a grader? Say for instance, I would decide I want to be a grader. Does that mean I got to stop collecting?
Yes. I mean,
Mm.
I
Okay.
don't know the rules for, the grading services and what they require, but like in
Yeah.
my opinion, it would be best to have graders be graders and collectors be collectors and dealers be dealers. That keeps it
Okay.
as pure as possible. You know,
Okay.
Yeah, I think dealers, unless you're really into it as a collector, I think dealers have the better eye. That's what they do professionally. That's what their
Mm-hmm.
job is. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of dealers out there that have great eyes that I respect a lot.
Wow.
And the collectors you see, they're running their 9 to 5 jobs, and not to take anything away from the passion. I think obviously the collector passion overwhelms the dealers and the auction houses as a whole. But sometimes
Mm-hmm.
passion doesn't equate to what it takes to be a grader. I mean, you're sitting in a room, it's a dark room, completely blacked out. You've
Mm.
got,
Wow.
you're sitting in a little office cubicle, and you've got a, halogen light at your desk. You're
Wow.
sitting 30 some other guys within the room. At least that's how it was at the time when I was there. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's more now. And everyone's doing the job and it does require patience. It does require the being methodical. I mean, it's the guys that want the ball with the last couple of seconds. When I was at a party years and years ago, and there was a bunch of dealers and collectors. I think it was like at a national or whatever. And there's some game that was going on, and I said, I can't believe they called that foul or whatever it was. And they
Wow.
go, that's exactly how we feel about you. And I thought, wow, that was,
I can't believe you give me a PSA 10. You gave me a PSA 9.
yeah,
Golly.
like that same kind of like energy, like what the hell, how is this not a 10, or how it's not an 8 or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I still
That is
scratch
so
my
dope.
head. I scratch my head, man, because when I look at the cards that I send off, I said, man, I have my piles that could be tens. I have my piles that could be nines. I call them, and then I have my piles that could potentially be nines. I call them gold medal nines. And I'm actually probably going to phrase that because for people out there, it'll kind of resonate and start ringing a bell. What's a gold medal nine? Well, the best opportunity that that card could possibly get is a nine. So you heard it here first, man. Go metal nines, man. That's what I call them.
All right, this is actually kind of a good question. I kind of wanna give some people the floor a little bit to answer some questions as well. I know I got tons of questions here on my phone. I'm just looking through real quick to make sure I don't miss anything. How much time is spent grading each card? Is every grader different? I would say I can already answer. Every grader is definitely different, but how much time is
Definitely
typically spent
different.
on on spending on each card?
I've heard algorithms just based on output that you can kind of like it has to, they can't be spending more than 90 seconds a card because that's how
Yeah.
much they're getting out on
What?
each. There's all these things. Hey, look, bottom line is if you're looking at a card that requires more time, you put more time in it. I
Yeah.
mean every card's getting measured. Every card is getting looked at through a peak lens that determines the centering left to right, top to bottom. And
Got you.
but as within PSA when I was there, as you get you see more product, you become more comfortable with a particular card in the particular set. You
Mm-hmm.
already know what the centering is. Like you
Mhm.
could show me 10 cards right now, and I could probably be within right there with each one
Mm-hmm.
10 wise, and it just comes with repetition and
Yeah.
experience. So does a card that maybe is on a line, that's when the peak lens would come in to look and see what the exact centering is. Otherwise, it's going to be subjective because with the
Okay.
PSA 10 in particular, it's 55-45 to 60-40. So that gives a lot of latitude
Yeah.
to say possible 10 based on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I get exactly what you're saying right now, man, because I've graded a lot of Mosaic for people this year's Mosaic. I've graded a lot of Prism for people. And I can almost tell by just taking a real brief look at the front of the card what the centering is going to come back as, right? Or the front of a Prism, where it needs to be at in order for it to, come back whatever it's going to come back at. So the more and more cards that you see, and that's what I tell people based on my experience, right? Based on my experiences, this is what I've seen, right? This is what a card has gotten with this kind of centering or that kind of centering. So it actually makes a whole bunch of sense what you're saying right now.
yeah,
Mm. All right, so I have a crazy question. I don't know if you know this, but I'm gonna ask you. What was the very first card that was graded?
at PSA.
See, yep.
Well, some people, the way the cert number worked, it was the T206 on a Wagner, but there were other cards before that. At the time, it was there were other cards there, but they made that one 001. They designated that, so that became
Mm-hmm.
marketing of what PSA did at the time.
I think I remember seeing that on the back of Beckett's magazines with the Honus Wagner. I think I remember seeing that back when they were
Yeah,
trying to promote it.
they
I
really
think I
wanted
know.
to.
Yeah.
It was, at that time we were facing like massive resistance, and having that card, be out there and whatnot. It was, it got the market turning. I mean, it got it thinking
Mm-hmm.
about what's to come. And mind you, that was in 1991, and here we are, going on 30 years later.
Do you? I was gonna say, ask you, Mike. Is do you have any clue in terms of value that when you grade a card, how much value is added to a card based upon the grade? Do you understand that at all, or do you have an idea? Because, like, I say for instance, a 9.5 of a Michael Jordan card right now, rookie 86 player,
Mm-hmm.
is, let's just say it's $300,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a PSA 10 is almost $750,000. Like,
Yep.
where did this stuff come from? Like, I mean, who determined these multipliers at whatever time? Like, where did I guess I'm just trying to figure out because I'm still relatively new to the industry. I've been back for 3 years, right? I was in the hobby when I was in high school, but I wasn't grading cards when I was in high school. I had no clue. We didn't know what was going
I
on. So
wasn't
for
either.
me,
Right.
yeah. So for me, this is all relatively still new to me being able to grade. Like I remember 3 years ago, I graded all the cards I pulled out of my 2017 class, rookie class, and just Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and didn't have a clue on what was what. But I guess that's my question: is how do we determine the value here? Because, like, I mean, this is where we are. Like we're talking about Michael Jordan being almost $1 million. Did you hear me, Mike? I
I
think
think
we.
you
I think.
froze out, but I might be able to answer that question, right? So
Go ahead. Feel free.
you always know that a card is going to be worth more than,
Hmm.
the better condition that it's going to be in, right?
Right.
And having a professional opinion come back and actually put their reputation behind those cards and say,
Yeah.
look, this is certified great condition card. People
Mm-hmm.
want that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
see how the difference between PSA 9s and the difference between PSA 10s are right now.
Yeah.
It's low pop, they're rare, and that's what people really go for, the rarity. Everything is based on rarity. Low pop,
Mm-hmm.
high grades, and like I said, more people are going to pay more for, the thing that's more rare. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants a 9 if you can have a 10, right?
I
No,
could
you
have.
got to
I
afford
could
the
only.
10.
I can only afford a 9. I can't afford a 10. But some nines might be good, and that's where I think Mike Baker MBA comes into play. And I think I want to ask the question: is when did you decide that what you're doing? When do you decide the business? You say you started in August of last year.
Mhm.
When did you decide that it was a new business venture for you?
Well, it's been like I said earlier. It's been talked about how to add the experience. I've seen a lot of cards, a lot, and looking at cards now in a holder, it's simplified my experience basically because now we've tightened the centering lines or centering parameters really, and an 86 Jordan in particular. I saw one that we posted on our Instagram, and it was a 86 9 gold, and it was dead
Mm,
center 50-50 front and back. I mean, like, it was like literally the best 9 that I think I've seen in a long time. I won't say if ever, but pretty darn close to if ever. And
right.
and that card should be denoted as something special, and that's exactly where the service
You come
comes
into
into
play.
play. You know,
So,
Yeah.
so you said that you had three diamonds, right? You
hmm
have a silver diamond, you have a
hmm
gold diamond, you have a black diamond. What
yep.
does that mean?
Well, I mean, basically, the silver diamond is basically a plus. The top 30% of what you'd see out in the marketplace. A gold, if you saw a gold like that 86 Jordan, I'm saying that, to me, that's like in my opinion, it's a 9.5 or better. I mean, it was
Mhm.
just lights out. And a black is going to be something that you and Raphael could look at right now and go, holy smoke, that is absolutely out of bounds, the best one you'd ever see. And look at the corners; they're all there, front and back, sharp. Not only sharp, but the color, because there's so many different colors used in the
Mhm.
manufacturing today that you can't even pick off some of these without looking with a 7 power lens, which is what I use, a 7 power, not a microscope, but a little eye loop basically, and highlight that. And then you
And
got your centering on it and making sure that the surfaces are nice, and the 4 criterias. And the black diamond is, it's special that you're not going to see a lot of those.
so,
Unfortunately, I wish
so,
they would.
um, so is there a chance that if somebody brought you a card that was, that you're looking at, that it doesn't get a diamond?
Oh yeah, it happens more often
Okay.
than without diamonds. And believe me, those conversations we have, like what Beckett has at BGS, they have a little report card on the back, and it says
Mm,
corners on the front, and surface and centering, and we check it
right.
off and just go here. And if someone has a further question, show them, and that's how you educate
Hmm.
them. And as the more repetition that they get a better comfort level for, and looking at things that they don't want to waste their money on. I don't want to take a card that doesn't you know won't ever make it. But I can't pre-screen that until I see it and I'm able to evaluate it based on what we're doing.
Now,
So
Mm.
now, have you had instances? Obviously, you're saying it's a plus, and then you say that it's a plus plus, and then you say it's a plus plus plus, right? Is like, um, are you saying that it could potentially be bumped up and maybe potentially get a higher grade if it was to regrade, or that's not what the meaning of that is?
no, some have.
Okay.
No, 100%.
Yep.
And
I've seen it.
at this last show, we got 6 Beckett BGS black labels, and
Nice.
I think all 5 or all 6 got black diamond. So I mean,
Okay.
you know, kind of like with
Yep.
memorabilia with PSA, DNA, and JSA. If
Hmm.
you have that on a Ruth ball, both authenticators, the top authenticators out there, and even throw in Beckett authentication with Steve Grad, all 3 of those, basically, it's going to sell for more money, 100%. And we're
Yeah.
hoping to highlight the best, and hopefully over time you'll see the spreads that you were talking about earlier in terms of what a silver or gold or black takes.
So I mean, like my brain is spinning here. It's going off because something that's become more and more relevant and more popular is people trying to submit cards for bumps or
Mm-hmm.
submit cards for crossover to potentially take a True Gem 9.5 from
Mm-hmm.
Beckett over to PSA to potentially get a 10 because you're tripling your investment at that point, right?
Hmm.
And I've seen I've submitted a lot of cards over for for crossovers, and obviously you put them in gem because there's no sense in cracking a really nice card out of a case if you're not going to put it in a 10 holder.
Yep.
And sometimes it's like when they get a card from another one of their competitors, I always get the impression that they're just looking for a reason not to bump it, right? They're
Right.
looking for something on it that's not perfect enough for them to put their higher, grading
I
on it,
agree. What's that? Yeah,
Um,
that's a good question. I like that.
and so for me, and I'm just like I said, thinking out loud here, is like, I mean, you've seen enough cars, and I'm pretty sure your grading standards are pretty in tune with what they're doing. Maybe we would have gotten a bad grader or a great grader. They were in a great mood that day. They just got a box of chocolates or something that day, and they were through the moon. And so a car I've seen, like I have a couple graded cars that I have right here in front of me that I've looked at, and I'm like, man, how did that get a true gem with that kind of corner, right?
Yeah,
I've seen stuff, and I'm like, how did that get that? So I'm just thinking out loud here and saying like, your service actually goes a lot further in educating people on their
hmm,
crossovers than a Beckett or a PSA ever could, right?
yeah,
Now, PSA barely started doing where they put little notes and little stickies on a BGS lab as to why they didn't cross it over, right? At least I got that on a couple of my last crossovers where they started to notate why they didn't cross it over. And so for me, your service now it's not the end all be all for that, but it educates people on their graded cards. And what does your service cost? I mean, that's another question I didn't know.
Well, let's start with your question. So it's twofold.
Okay.
One, when a Beckett card comes when I was grading, or another service card, basically, if and now with the values that have just like gone off the chain, it's but there's an inherent conservative value in the grader's mind that, hey, it sure looks like it could cross, but boy, if we see something once it pops, and then it's a point of no return. So the conservative nature is always in a, if it's absolutely there and you feel like you could like go to the bank with it, so to speak, then you fight for it. But
hmm,
I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that being conservative and just say no, you can't go. I mean, it's the reality. You're looking at something that's $100,000 piece of plastic with obviously the card in it, and and with Beckett in particular, you have it down in the little sleeve that's in their
hmm,
holder. And
Hmm.
so, some things pop to life once it's cracked out, and you can't go back and say, hey, Beckett, would you put this back in? It's $100,000
yeah,
card. So there's got to be,
right,
you're basically rolling the dice, in my opinion. Second,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
second part of the question, um, relative to what we're bringing to the table, I'm hoping that this continues to go in the direction it's going, where the stickers will become the part of the liquidity, where you
Hmm.
guys don't have to worry about, or maybe not all worry about, but maybe it cuts a lot of the pressure off from thinking about crossing over or reviewing and the turn times and your money being tied up, because you can come to a show or send it off to our office and get it a silver, gold, or black, and it may not be the same amount of money that you would have gotten if the 9.5 went to a PSA 10 at this time, but maybe down the road we'll look back on this conversation and say, hey, I barely do any crossovers anymore. I just go to MBA.
right. And
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
yeah, that's definitely something I've considered. Especially with my Giannis grading out with the gold sticker on top of it. I was like, I don't think I really want to try to submit it for a bump. And I think you've started. I think you probably. I don't know if you've been paying attention or not, but your stickers have made it to eBay,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and I think it's been reflecting in the sales. There's been a lot of things selling for a premium with the NBA stickers on there. So kudos to you and with the services that you actually offer. I think, and I'm actually one of the guys who submitted one of your cards for a bump. It actually did get a black label. It was a BGS 10. You submitted it with a black label, the black diamond sticker on it, and it did get bumped to a black label. So, and you already probably know my guy.
Kudos.
I
Yeah,
didn't know.
Kudos.
kudos. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, my guy Charlie from Atlanta. Shout out to Charlie in Atlanta. I don't know if you know him or not. He's a good friend of mine, but I submitted his cards for him, and it did get a bump. So definitely, it services actually work, guys.
getting back to the price points, at the show, we were $40 per card at the show, and $75 for a 2-hour service. And we were slammed. I mean, Friday
Yeah.
night, you guys were both there at the last Dallas, and this last Friday night was like 10 times more kooky than it was the previous Friday.
Did you have to cut it off?
No, because the 2-hour service kicked in, and we really didn't want to leave with anyone else's product, throw it in the
Right.
safe. For that, we wanted to, like, hey, let's do the best we can. At some point,
Mhm.
if the cutoff point was, hey, like maybe a couple hours before the show, if we can't get the 40s out, then just, if you're willing to do it at 75, great. If not, let's go tomorrow. And that's how the kind of
Mhm.
conversation was. And the guys that wanted their stuff back, I mean, you guys saw the lobby. They were doing
Yeah.
business at 6 in the morning and midnight, and everyone's around
Four-
tables and
4
cards were
o'clock in the
everywhere.
morning.
It was
4
Yep.
o'clock
crazy.
in the morning, man.
Yeah, Dallas shows are always crazy, guys.
It
If
was
you've never
live.
been, this is crazy. It's crazy
Yeah.
business all weekend. From Thursday to Sunday night. It's
Yeah, I
crazy
think we saw. I think we saw $250,000 transactions happening in the lobby.
every day.
Michael Jordan rookie cards exchanging hands, LeBron James refractors switching hands. It was an epic experience, man. And there's
Definitely
another one
was.
coming in March. We'll
Yeah.
definitely be there. But man, I know you got some more questions there, man. Like I have so much stuff I can ask you, man. I can take up. I almost have to pay you $75 just for your 2 hours turnaround, man.
That's good.
All right. So I'm gonna ask a question for the general people out here. What are some tricks that you can do to help us score the infamous PSA 10, or some things that we should probably be looking for out there? I mean, I guess it's just something, I guess for the general public out here, because I get friends who ask me all the time, "Hey man, I just pulled this Joe Burrow, man. It's gonna PSA 10," and I'm thinking, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, send me a picture of it. I mean, it looks okay, but I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, tell us some tricks that maybe I mean, some things that maybe you can do to help us become better. I don't know what the word is it just,
Educated, just
yeah,
educated.
better educated. Yeah, correct.
You know what? I don't have the secret formula for that. There is a thought process that if you pull a Joe Burrow or any card out of a pack, it's got to be a PSA 10. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
just like Kobe Collector was saying earlier, if it was all like that, there would be no spreads and everyone would know exactly what they're going to get. So,
Correct.
that being said, every card after it's manufactured goes into a pack, and then that pack's thrown into a box. And I always call it
Mhm.
like frictional packware. Like the pack just has enough room for you to open it up to get to the cards without messing it up. But then the
Hmm.
cards, because they have that little bit of play in there, they can go up and down. They can go a little left and right. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's just that little tip on the corner that's going to prevent it from, Beckett 10ing, SGC 10ing, or PSA having a 10 with PSA. And the trick is basically just to make sure the cards that you do get. I'm a big fan of like looking at what I see, not what I would want to pull or rip. So
Correct.
if I was to ever spend a big boatload on something, I'd want to see it in person personally. And then
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've been using.
Oh
All right, so
man.
it looks like we lost. Looks like we lost Mike again, but like Mike will be
I,
on very
I was
shortly.
I had a
We
good
probably got
question
like
for him. Waiting. It was on. I teed it up. I was about to hit it out the
it's
park,
all
man.
right.
I had two questions. He'll be right back.
It's
Hey,
all right.
man, it's really exciting, man. Actually, I just
Yeah, it
felt like
is.
I felt like the big dog in the bowl, man. Just taking up
Hey,
all the questions, man.
man, look, it's okay. I'm kind of getting my questions answered, and then I got the people on Instagram. If you guys are joining me on Instagram, feel free to click the link in the bio and go ahead and join this chat. We're probably gonna have Mike for maybe another 15 minutes or so. We're gonna try to answer some questions for you guys. If you have any questions, and I'm gonna kind of get. I probably have like two more questions, and I think my questions are probably like business related. I just want to kind
Yeah.
of see if he'll come back and get business related. I know you. Let's see. How do you feel about people? Let's see. Okay. All right. Are we talking about? Are we going to talk about altered cards?
I mean,
No.
I had two questions lined
What
up
are you
for him,
thinking?
man. I mean, we
Yeah.
can ask him. We can ask him whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what
I'm
it
just
is.
curious. All right. Let's see. I think we got Mike back. Give me 1 second, guys.
Let me
All right. So it looks like.
let me ask him two questions before you get into that, right?
All right, Mike.
So
I was just gonna say, Mike, we probably got you for about another 14 minutes, and then after that, we'll let you go. But we'll try to get you through this.
No, it's all
So
good.
how do you
Okay,
feel
cool.
like the new thing, and it's more prevalent now that I'm seeing? What do you feel about the print lines on the back of cards? Right. I mean, to me, they hurt my feelings.
They hurt my feelings too. I mean, if you can see it, it's there. Then it's a conversation within what you're doing, both on the grading end and what we're doing with MBA. So I mean, you just can't have visible print lines when there are other copies that don't have it. So the ones that don't have
Yeah.
it should be rewarded.
Ah, we lost Mike again, so we will get Mike back shortly.
Hey
He was
man,
answering the
hey,
question. He is like, I'm hoping we can keep it going for a little while. Sorry, guys, just some technical difficulties. All
hey, I
right.
want to tell you what I just picked up though, man. I really do.
Woo,
So I was
you want to
looking
finish
at a
me?
trout to buy. I was looking at a trout to buy, man, and just came across this bad boy. It's a True Gem
Hmm.
Plus, trout auto rookie card, man. And I'm probably gonna get it crossed over, which is why I was
Mm,
asking all these questions to Mister Mike Baker here, man, because I might
man,
I might have to send it to him, get a black label, and then
there
send
you
it
go.
back. We're gonna see.
There you
We
go.
might be able to
I
test
think
this.
I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna do that on my on
Uh,
my LeBrons I'm getting in. Woo.
yeah, I picked up a nice little lot here, man, of baseball cards, man, getting ready for the baseball season, and we might have to mail these off to him, man, and and
Yeah.
and, and get them redone.
Get that sticker, man. I actually submitted a card recently. Well, two cards. One to be graded on Monday, and also a GCR, which for the people out there, it's a grade card review. And it's a card that I submitted for a bump. It's point 0.5 away. Hopefully, I get it. All right, welcome back, Mike. You can go ahead and
Sorry
finish where you
again.
left off at. It's all right, man. It's okay. We hanging today. We having fun, so that's
It,
cool.
it happens to me all the time. I'm just glad it's not happening to me today.
Hey, I when we first started the show, I had to get a hardwired line because I was having so many difficulties in the beginning. I'm like, man, I got to make sure I'm not the problem. So,
Oh, you're the problem.
but
You're always the problem.
oh gosh, stop, stop.
Hey, as we
Okay,
get this is episode 13 or 14.
I don't even remember. I stopped counting.
Hey,
I
hey,
stopped
but
counting.
as we've gotten this far into this episode and haven't had a Hawks reference, and so I'm through the moon, right? I'm through the
Well,
moon. I haven't heard about the Hawks. There's 13 minutes left in your conversation, and I just brought them up right now, and I'm so happy I don't have to hear the Hawks every 5 minutes like I used to.
that's okay. All right, so Mike, go ahead and finish what you were talking about. The question was again, Kobe Collector.
Print
I don't
lines,
remember what the
print
question.
lines.
Print
It was
lines,
print
correct.
lines.
Yeah, if they're there, they're going to be factored in. I mean, they do it with Beckett, they do it with all the grading services, and we're doing the same thing.
Nice.
If yeah, I mean, there's some that have it, some that don't. That don't definitely get the extra love relative to getting a NBA diamond and hopefully a PSA 10 and Beckett 10 and obviously everybody wants the 10. That's what everyone's chasing. You were saying earlier that Raphael was making them forward relative to the 9 weight. We've been talking about that for a while. About how
Yeah.
10s are going into a level of it's pricing itself out for the normal guy, and there's a lot of cards within the 9 that are affordable that can still get
Hmm.
a silver or gold label. So I think that's something to
Nice.
consider for the viewers.
For the collectors out there, okay, that's actually something I'm actually been considering for my own personal collection is going after Jordan PSA 9 because while it's still semi affordable, well, it's semi affordable
Yeah, rich guy,
in
rich
respect to the
guy.
hobby, right? All right, so in respect to the hobby, either 8.5 PSA 8.5, which I think is still on that threshold a little bit too. But I had a question for you. Would you consider doing your own slabs and doing like an
Yeah, see, I was gonna ask
MBA
that too.
slab instead of like actually like grading, grading on top of a PSA 10 or just, putting an extra. Would you consider doing your own?
No, no,
Mm.
because it just the amount of then we have a sealing department, a customer service department. Then we have
You don't want
the
those problems.
backlog, and we're trying to add some hope, a ray of hope out there for you guys to, get your product in and out same
Yeah.
day, affordable, and go off and trade or collect or whatever you're going to do with your stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, I really enjoy the simplicity of what we're doing. We've set the shop up to see the best of the best. I mean, people are
Hmm.
really, I saw a 52 mantle and a four PSA four that
Nice.
came in, and it was dead centered front and back. It was just awesome, and that's, I like I like how we're doing it. It's we don't have to worry about, like I said, all the infrastructure component that would come with another slab.
All right. So the next question is: has PSA reached out to you or Beckett?
For
I don't know.
about
Maybe
what we're doing.
any future collaborations, stuff
Um,
like
I,
that.
at this time, no, but
Okay.
if I guarantee you this, and not with just the grading services, but we're since we're so much show based, like I said earlier, it's hard for collectors to spend $1,000 in shipping insurance to send it off to
Hmm.
our facility. So people want to go and see it and greet it like you have when you were in Chantilly. And
Correct.
no, I think down the road we're working with some partners right now, and some big things to come. But I think once we get some more shows and COVID kind of hopefully mellows out at some point in the not too distant
Right.
future, we'll maybe those conversations will happen. But right now we're focused on putting a hologram on great looking product.
Well, what's dope about you is if you're just going to focus on show base, that's good for the new people who are coming to the hobby who don't necessarily know if a Jordan, like you buy a Jordan, it's a fake Jordan. It's have all these fraudulent cards out there, the Mantles and the Jordans that are out there are fake, and you spend all this X amount of money. It's like, all right, you know what? Let me go to MBA and just verify that it's real, which is one of the reasons why I chose your services. That when I was in Chantilly, I wanted to make sure what I had was the genuine article. Because there are they're totally encapsulated cards out there. There PSA 8, 9 Jordans out there that are fake. I think we just saw one get on the news recently about a fake Jordan being out there, so or fraudulent Jordan or whatever it was out there. So that's why companies like you being out there for the majority for the shows, I think is a really good idea. Kobe Collector, you there?
Yeah, I'm
Or you
here.
just shaking your head? Okay, I was making sure.
I can hear
I was
you.
making
I can
sure.
hear you loud and
Okay.
clear, man. It's like you're in my basement right
Okay.
here.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. And somebody named Tony Y says, "Holy crap, Mike! I haven't seen you since the last meeting with Steve, Roshi, and John. I don't know if you know who that is."
I don't.
Well, I
No,
don't know if you know
I know Steve Rocky used to be
Rocky.
the president of
Got you.
PSA.
Got you. Steve, Rocky, and John. Got you. See, there you go. I didn't even know. Okay. Would you have any intentions on potentially selling a company in the future, or like this is something you kind of see yourself doing full time for the rest of your life at this point?
I don't know. I don't know what. I know we're having a lot of fun doing what we're doing right now, and I'm sure just like in cards, everything's for sale if the numbers right. You know.
Hey, there you go. You got to have a number, man. You come to my
Yeah.
table, I got a number.
Yeah.
That
I
makes
Everything
don't
for
have
sense.
one
sale.
yet, but I enjoy the shows. I enjoy meeting guys like yourself. I enjoy meeting the collectors. I love the
Yeah,
social media aspect to it, especially what you're doing with your podcast. I think it's
yeah,
great. You're talking about informing collectors. That's basically what I've been doing for a long time, and this just adds
yep.
another layer, and it's super techy. It's super cool.
Yeah, it is. I'm still learning, so it's definitely new for me too. So John Iyoye from Hawaii. That's who he says who it is. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know.
I do know
Okay,
him.
there you go. All
Yeah,
right, so there you go.
he was a huge player back in the day. Probably still is,
Oh.
knowing him.
So shout out to Tony Y or John and Yoyi. Oh,
In
so
your
what was
way.
your in your way? Yep, there you
Yep.
go. All right, so I'm terrible with names. So Kobe Collector, what other questions that you have, and then we're going to try to give the people online the floor.
No, I've asked all my questions, man. Like I said, I'm full, right? I was sitting over that bowl of food like that big old fat puppy, and I ate
Uh
up
huh.
all the food, man, and I'm full. But
All
hey,
right.
man, I actually I'm still stoked, man. I act like I just got a jolt of caffeine in my veins with this stuff, man, because it is a venture that I actually feel really passionate about. It just actually became a PSA dealer, to submit through them full time. And it's one of those surreal moments where you get to actually pick a brain of someone who does it, who's lived that life. And I know my bitty little eyes here, they might not be working with all the cars that I look at. So I'm gonna try to use them up as much as I can to potentially get
Hmm.
people as best of the grades that I could potentially get them, man. So, big kudos to you and what you're doing.
Yep.
I have some cards here that I'm probably gonna test out the services, man. Because look, we don't just bring people on here just talk to them. Although we like to talk to them, everybody that we bring in and we bring on, we believe in what they do and what they bring to the
Exactly.
hobby. And so we're
Exactly.
advocates of each and everything that everyone do. And we talk about it all the time, the different avenues and the different lanes that you can actually come in and be successful. Right.
Yep.
And I just want to say, man, I do appreciate you for coming on and talking to us today
Yep.
because you shed a light on something that everyone has questions about, and whether
Hmm.
you're on this side of the fence on it or that side of the fence on it, I think the service that you actually bring is really valuable for us in
I agree.
determining what population, what 10 percenters, what 5 percenters of those nines and tens or nine and a half populations are out there, because those are the ones that are bringing the higher premiums. For somebody coming in, they don't know what a 20%, of the pop looks like. They don't know
Hmm.
what a 10% looks like, but your service brings that to light. It sheds that big, bright light on something that they otherwise couldn't do themselves, right?
Hmm.
Whenever someone doesn't have the time, and convenience isn't there for them, it breeds services, it breeds products, it breeds stuff exactly like you have yourself. Hell, what I do myself. And so, like I said, I really respect what you're doing. I'm gonna actually put my foot in the fire too, and utilize your services so I can know firsthand exactly what to expect. And actually, I'm gonna test myself. Sometimes you grade the grader, right? So sometimes I'll look at something and I'll say, "Hey, this don't look like that," or "Hey, this looks spectacular," and I want to send it to you and probably get that second opinion that I need, man, for my own self gratification or satisfaction, wherever you want to put it.
Agreed. Fair enough. It's well. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. I appreciate the ups and all that. I'm we're out there trying hard. We're grinding. I know I've focused on our show aspect in the meet and greet, but we absolutely take submissions at our office and whatnot. The difference is you have to be a member to sign up, and the memberships are basically to kind of vet out what people are, how committed they are relative to what we want to educate them. We're not interested in taking people's money without them knowing what's going on as best we can. And a
Hmm.
lot of the guys, when they come to the table, they already have the majority of them so far have a good idea of what they should be submitting to us.
Hmm.
And that's even the cards that we've seen, if they were in, proper conditions to really look at their cards, it would probably be a little less than what we've gotten. But when you're at a show and the lights are, 50 feet in the air and you're like, oh, the centering looks great on this, let's go submit it. And then it gets into
Right.
a well-conditioned room to then evaluate the card properly with, the conditions that are needed to see it. And then you might pick off a little this, a little that. I think what we're really helping people out is adding that little report card on the back. And then if you have a further question, we get out there and really point it out, try to get you on the same page.
I do love that, man. Well, cool. I mean, like Kobe Collector pretty much said everything I wanted to say in reference to
Yeah,
what
he
you
killed it.
bring to the table, man. Like yeah. This show was Kobe Collector's show. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it just, I just, hey, but I really do appreciate you, Mike, joining us, man, so much. I'm gonna try to answer some questions that might be out there. Let's see. Can you submit? All right, let me see. This is a question here. All right, so Oni Storm Gaming says, can you submit raw cards for stickers or a type of raw card review before submitting to grading company? And is there paperwork with the sticker? And lastly, do I contact MBA?
Okay. No, no, and yes. No, we're not doing rock hard. I think there might be some chatter about doing something down about looking for cards that like you said about 86 Jordan and looking at that
Uh-huh.
for authenticity. Um,
Yeah.
but again, we're not trying to. We really want to stay in our lane, as you said when we first started the show.
Hey,
And our
that's
lane
it.
right now is looking at previously graded product by PSA, SGC, and Beckett, and employing diamond holograms to those that are warranted based on the condition that they're
There
in.
you go.
You can check out more information on our website, www.mbadiamond.com, and
That's
our
it.
Instagram is at MBA Diamonds, plural, on Instagram.
And also, guys, just don't be scared to talk to reach out to Mike and the team, man. They are very very personable, just like we are. We like to try to bring people on there. I love people who are just like me, who can talk and hang out and and at the end of the day, we can go have a beer and talk cards, talk about what we are passionate about. I love that aspect of it. And the first time I met you, I asked you questions. You did exactly what you said you advertised. This guy's not lying about what he offers. He didn't know me from a can of paint, and I asked him questions. He was very, very knowledgeable. I didn't even know who he was, and I had to learn. I was like, "Oh no, that's Mike Bigger." I was like, "I heard that name before, but I wasn't really sure." So again, I was fairly new to the hobby, and I'm still, still learning every single day. So I thank you for joining the show and answering the questions. All right, guys, if you have any additional questions, you better hurry up and go, because if not, we're gonna probably end the show because we've tied up this guy's time a lot for a little bit longer than I wanted to.
Hey
It's all
man, hey
good.
Raphael, can I borrow $75, man, to get 2 more hours of his time, man?
Oh man, look. Well, look. I mean, you got. Well, you can always reach out to Mike. That's the good thing. See, you can always reach out to Mike, man, and just hit him up and ask him some questions. I'm sure he wouldn't mind talking to you. I got his number though, so you ain't got his number. So
Hey
I can
man,
call him up. Say, hey
hey he
man,
got
let's talk.
he has my face on his shirt though, man. It has to count for
Oh man.
something.
Hey man, that's it. They'll be on the website soon. I probably was just gonna be the website's gonna be dope when I finally finish it. But Mike, I really appreciate you. I'm probably gonna advertise you and continue to talk about you. I deal with people talking negative, but at the same time though, you can't have you're gonna always have that. And I
Yeah,
love the fact that what you talked about having to go against people in the beginning of the conversation, like going through the grunt work to build your company up. Man, people don't understand. People will always dog you out. I had people dog me out about a podcast before I even started it.
yeah,
But I didn't know how relevant it was until I started. People used to come to my table and say, "Man, I love what you do. I love what you stand for. I love your product. I love your brand." And I'm thinking to myself, like, "Wow, like I got to keep going." So I say that to say anybody that's out there that are listening, stay positive. And just because they tell you no does not mean it does not work. It's not a good idea, not a plan. Just execute well and you'll be successful. So that's my two
Perfect. Couldn't say it
cents.
better
I,
myself. I
I just have one
appreciate
more
you guys
thing to
having me
say,
on.
man. I'm looking for a PSA 10 LeBron James refractor, man. PSA 10. If you have any, hit me up. I'm seriously
Hey, there
looking to
you
buy.
go.
I'll buy two
Rich
of them.
people
Just let
cards.
me know. I got y'all.
Rich people cards, man. All right, well, without further ado, we do appreciate you joining the show and Prism God TV out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to start follow us on social media. Click and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys got the information for NBA Diamond. I'm sorry, for NBA. Feel free to contact him on social media as well as NBA Diamond on Instagram. And his website is also there. You got Kobe Collector for submissions. And you also have me, Prism God. You can also hit me up anytime. I'm pretty, my cell phone number is basically my Instagram page. Just hit me up on there. I'll pretty much respond pretty quick. So, all right, without further ado, you guys have a great week. We will see you guys next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. on the dot, baby. Thank you.
Or late, but who's saying?